The grown-ups of Hilldale. Why do they tremble? Why are they nervous? What are they all afraid of?
Hi, Mr. Welcome.
Dennis!
The Menace. Dun, dun, dun. He's no ordinary kid.
Look at the way his hair sticks up and back.
He's the scariest thing to happen to grown-ups since shaving.
Hi.
Dennis. Dun, dun, dun. The Menace. Dun-dun. Weekdays at 6, 5 Central on Nickelodeon.
In a few short weeks, Christmas will be over, and the lights and tinsel will be put away for another year. But in many homes, the joy of this Christmas will live forever, because Mother gave Father a Brownie movie camera, and they captured it all in movies right from the start. And how about you? Why don't you make this a give and take Christmas? Give your family a Brownie automatic movie camera, so they can take movies that save all the action and color of Christmas. The Brownie automatic movie camera costs $74.50 or as little as $7.50 down. And it's easy to use. Whether you shoot in bright sunlight or in deep shade, your camera sets itself to the right exposure automatically. And to show your movies bright and clear, there's the fine Brownie 500 projector. Why not give your family a Kodak gift and make this the happiest Christmas you'll ever remember?
Sitcom, all ye faithful, a Christmas podcast special. And for the fifth time I discuss 25 Christmas sitcom episodes. Please come and listen as we count down to Christmas. You should see Mr. Wilson, Tom Hanks, and Danny Thomas. Sherman Hemsley will return, and we head back to Springfield. We're definitely spending Christmas in Springfield.
Christmas!
Happy Monday, everybody, and happy December 8th. Yes, it is the 8th day of December, which means it's the 8th day of Sitcom, all ye faithful, which means for the 8th day in a row, I am here talking to you about Christmas sitcom episodes. And today, just like last week, I am going all the way back to the 1950s. But the difference this time is that today I'm talking about a show that I actually watched. Dennis the Menace. Not Dennis T. Menace. That's not his name like Buford T. Justice. Dennis the Menace, a show that premiered in 1959 and ran from 59 to 1963. Nowadays, if a show ran from 1959 to 1963, you'd get anywhere between, like for 4 seasons, you'd get anywhere between 40 and 80 episodes. This show, for 4 seasons, has 146 episodes. We're talking an average of the first season had 32 episodes. Every other season after that had 38 episodes. How do you have 38 episodes of this premise? It's not like it was this, overarching story of a young boy and his family and his neighbor, Mr. Wilson. No, this was just like a family sitcom based on a very famous comic strip of the same name, Dennis the Menace. The comic strip came out what year did that come out? That came out all the way in the 1950s as well, in 1951. Dennis the Menace, and by the way, he never quite looked like the kid in the comic. They very different. Dennis the Menace in the comic strip looks almost like Jason Harvey, like a young Jason Harvey. He has that kind of hair and head shape. And I think of him like almost the Pee-wee's Big Adventure version of, I'm ready, let roll, I've been ready, with the nuns and the bike. You know what I'm talking about. I don't know why that's the first thing I thought of, but that's the kind of look we have here, where Jane North was just this cute little blonde kid. They did give him the little hair sticking out of his head. But Jane North, who I know mainly from Dennis the Menace, and I believe he's the voice of Bam Bam in one of the Pebbles and Bam Bam Hour, I think. He played the titular, which always sounds dirty when you say it, the titular character, Dennis the Menace, Dennis Mitchell. And basically it's about this kid who gets into trouble, has his parents, and he always bugs his next door neighbor, Mr. Wilson, a young boy who pals around with an old man who says, "Great Scott." Guess what, ladies and gentlemen? It originated here. I think Mr. Wilson said "Great Scott" 2 or 3 times just in this episode alone. So I wonder if Emmett Brown's, use of the saying "Great Scott" is an ode to Mr. Wilson. Like it definitely wasn't created by Doc Brown, that's for sure. Now, I said I watched this show as a kid. Here's what I remember from Dennis the Menace. I remember the cartoon, but that came out in the 80s. I remember watching that, and I remember him being a big deal with Dairy Queen, like a Dairy Queen mascot. And I remember this show, and the reason I remember it, of course, is Nickelodeon. Before there was YouTube, the only way you could watch old shows, there wasn't DVD box sets then. Maybe they had VHS, like some episodes on VHS. I don't think the big thing of buying VHS was available yet at this point in my life. I remember working at a video store, and they would put the VHS into a case and they would show you the price. It was like $99 is what the price of this movie is. So if you steal it, you're going to owe us $100 for, like $3 worth of plastic and the film. So I don't think people were buying media then like this. So the only way for someone my age to watch old shows was through Nickelodeon and Nick at Night. However, Dennis the Menace wasn't a Nick at Night show. If I'm correct, I remember waking up and watching this with my morning breakfast before school, like maybe half an episode. I probably watched a bunch of the episodes over time, but I don't know if I ever sat and watched a full one while I'm getting ready for school in the morning. But this show, I guess it was a big enough hit that it was on for 4 seasons. Then there was the cartoon that was in the 80s. Then there was a series of movies. There was the big budget, the big theatrical release with Walter Matthau as Mr. Wilson. And then they had like 3 or 4 like direct to DVD movies. So the Dennis the Menace franchise, and I believe the comic is still in syndication today. Originally written by and drawn and written by Hank Ketchum, the creator, based on his son Dennis, and now his other son writes and draws it, I think, if I'm correct, if the Wikipedia is to be believed. But for me, yes, I remember the cartoon, I remember Dairy Queen, and the comic strip to a degree, because I'd seen it in the paper. But to me, this show was Dennis the Menace. To me, this Mr. Wilson was my Mr. Wilson. And, Mr. Wilson is the next door neighbor, the old next door neighbor who deals with the young Dennis Mitchell neighbor boy who's annoying and always likes to say, "Hey, Mr. Wilson." But the thing that blew my mind is this Mr. Wilson, this actor, he passed away in the 3rd season, or maybe the 3rd season or about, and he passed away in 1962. Okay, he was born in 1907, which means that when this man died, he was 55 years old, and which means when he did this episode of television in 1959, this mofo was 52 years old. Okay, I think he's about 10 years older than Dennis's dad. He looks about 30 years older. He looks like an old elderly man. The man is like maybe 6 months younger than my wife or some shit like that. Oh, excuse my language, but it just blew me away. It's like when you look at the Golden Girls and you realize they were all like 19 when they did the show. I know that's an exaggeration, but someone sent me a picture with all their ages, and I go, yeah, none of these are right. Like, he was like, I can't believe this. I was like, no, none of them are right. Someone made the ages way too young. But it was just a different time. Like Wilford Brimley, I think I'm almost the age of Wilford Brimley in Cocoon, and he was a scruffy old man, and I'm an aging man-child, but still, the fact that this is what a 50-year-old, a 52-year-old looked like, and it helped. He'd tuck in his pants. He'd wear these little bifocals. He just looked like an old man, but guess what? It's because he was. That's like, in like 100 years ago, you were old when you were in your 30s. 200 years ago, if you made it to your teens, you were elderly. You were like the village elder. So I can imagine that in this guy being 52, it's like, we have to help out old Mr. Wilson. He's almost aged enough to be retired. Now, I don't think he had a job. Maybe they make him look a little older. And I remember him hating Dennis more, but he was really sweet to Dennis. He was a little curmudgeon-y, but he was very complimentary of Dennis for the most part of this episode. Of course, this episode takes place at Christmas time, and very little, no Christmas magic, very little Santa talk. There was some mention of it, but it wasn't him always just thinking all my gifts, come from Santa. For the most part, all he cared about was seeing what his mom and dad got him. That was the impetus. Is that the right word? That was the main thing of this entire episode, is that Dennis wants to find the gifts where they're hidden so he can shake them and see what might be in all the boxes. Because there are a lot of boxes. This kid got way too many gifts, but he's an only child. So, maybe he's getting a little more spoiled than he would if he had to share it with his, brothers. I had to share gifts with my brother, that selfish bastard. But at the same time, he was a few years older than me. So he always got things that were, things maybe I wasn't quite interested in. But you could still play with him from time to time when he lets you. But Dennis was lucky. He got to get all the toys for himself. But what were those toys? That's what he needed to find out. And so he pulled all these little tricks throughout the episode. Like there was a part where his dad would hide the gifts in a trunk in the attic because last year he found them easily. So, and the only key was in the dad's pocket. But Dennis went through to all the neighbors and said, hey, do you have any keys that don't go to anything? Can I have them? And he tried every single key to see if one of those might open the trunk. I thought that was pretty funny. He offered to come in and visit his mom. And he's like, oh, we're tired. We're going to lie down. He looks under the bed. He's like, do you want me to put this gift away in this closet? Do you want me to put it in this? Is there any drawer you don't want me to check to find more wrapping paper or to put these gifts in? Like, he's basically trying to get his mom to give away where the gifts are. The thing I thought was actually the most clever thing was he got his dad an alarm clock and his mother was going to wrap it for him. So Dennis said, I'm going to set this alarm for 4 o'clock. I'm going to give it to my mom. She's going to wrap it and she's going to put it with all the other gifts. When the alarm goes off, I'm going to know where all the gifts are and then I can look at them. This little shit could not wait till Christmas to get his gifts. It was maybe for 5 seconds you're interested in what the gifts are, but this guy could not stop. And even at the end, we'll get to the end. Now, there's also the side story of him playing the trumpet and wanting to practice the trumpet, but he can't practice in the house, but he's too loud. He annoys Mr. Wilson. Then there's a whole story of Mr. Wilson early on. They decide to hide all the gifts at Mr. Wilson's house. And at one point, Mr. Wilson's doorbell gets stuck and Dennis's dad's like, I'm sorry, it wasn't me. The doorbell's stuck. He's like, oh, don't worry about it. And later on, they bring all the gifts there and the alarm clock goes off in Mr. Wilson's closet. And it sounds enough like the doorbell that this ancient, elderly 52-year-old man could not tell the difference. He kept thinking someone was at his door. Now he thinks his dog can ring the doorbell. He brings the dog in the house, and the dog scratches at the closet because he doesn't know that the Mitchells, Dennis's family, got their dog a bone. So now he's trying to find this bone. At the same time, Dennis comes over and he's like, ooh, why does your dog want to get in the closet? Let me look. And like, Dennis, you can't look in there. So he's like, ooh, he's starting to think his gifts might be in there. It goes on and on with the alarm clock. And then eventually Christmas comes, they decorate this tree, and they find out that the Wilsons don't have a tree because they're just kind of staying home and not doing anything much this Christmas because it's only the two of them. So Dennis invites them over. And they decorate their tree. At first, the tree really looked bad. Then they added tons of tinsel. Remember, this is 1959, so there is a ton of tinsel. which just seemed like a tree of the time. And it started to look a little better. I think it looked pretty good. Then Dennis wants to sing a Christmas carol or play a Christmas carol on his trumpet, on his bugle, but they're like, no one does that. That's not how it's done. So let's sing a song. So they all start singing Silent Night. And then one by one, the parents, the adults stop singing, and Dennis finishes it alone. And it is kind of sweet. And they're like, the parents are like, that was wonderful. And the dad's like, God bless us all. He sings like an angel. And Mr. Wilson's like, he is an angel. He is an angel. I'm like, I guess this is only the 11th episode of the first season, so you don't hate his guts yet. And right now you just think of him as a sweet little angel boy. But here's the thing. At the end of the episode, this sweet little angel boy goes over to the Wilsons, opens the door, opens the closet, and he sees all his gifts. He sees the sled that his uncle got him. He's like, because he was afraid his uncle wouldn't send him the sled. He's like, we really need to write a letter to Santa to make sure I get the sled in case uncle doesn't send it to me. Well, the sled was there, and he goes, oh boy, I got it. And that's the end of the episode. So he broke into his neighbor's house, breaking and entering. And he definitely could be, at least he's too young for jail, but at least he could go to juvie. But instead, it's just the episode ends. Now you have to remember, this is a show pretty much mainly geared for kids, so it didn't have to have this like big resolution. We didn't even get to Christmas Day, actually. I think we just ended on Christmas Eve because everyone decorates their tree on Christmas Eve in TV land. And I think the only other thing I want to mention is that for the most part, the only characters of this episode is Mr. and Mrs. Wilson, Dennis, and Dennis's parents. However, his buddy Tommy is kind of weaved throughout the episode, and I don't know how many episodes Tommy was in. So this show was on for 146 episodes, if I am correct. And Billy Booth played young Tommy. He was in 111 of them, so he was pretty much there, his best friend, the entire time. I don't remember him really, I don't think I remember Tommy by name, but when I saw the kid, I was like, oh, I remember him. But then I'm thinking, wait, does he look like the little kid from Monster Squad? Not the main kid, not Andre, his friend, who was like in that and some movie with Winona Ryder that I can't think of. But that's who he reminded me of. But I did kind of remember him. Now, here's the sad thing about this episode. There, as I said, the main characters, Mr. and Mrs. Wilson, they're both gone. They've passed away. Mr. Wilson passed away, again, 1962. Then they brought his brother. Who else? Mr. Wilson. And for one season, that guy, he's been on Lucy. That guy was in a ton of stuff. And he came in, to visit his sister-in-law. But then they kind of got rid of the other Mrs. Wilson and brought his wife in. So the final season had a different Mr. and Mrs. Wilson, but they were different characters. They didn't just recast the roles. They just kind of put new characters in place of the original Mr. Wilson, but he was still Mr. Wilson, so all the Mr. Wilson could still work. Mr. and Mrs. Mitchell, they're no longer with us. There was a mailman, Mr. Dorfman, he's no longer with us. And then the sad part is that Jay North, Dennis Mitchell, and Billy Booth, Tommy Anderson, the little kids in this episode, they are also no longer with us. So every single person that I saw in this episode is dead. Happy Christmas, everybody! So this episode aired on a Sunday night, December 20th, 1959. I was like, what, was this a primetime show? And yes and no. Now, to me, prime time on Sundays always started at 7, right? Because wasn't that when America's Funniest Videos on? Wasn't that on at 7? Like, there were some shows that were on, or was that America's Funniest People with Dave Coulier and the Jackalope and, fast as fast can be, you'll never catch me. Did that ring a bell to anybody right there? Or did I just embarrass myself? Or both? But I don't know if it was always this way, but on Sundays at 7 p.m. it was Lassie followed by Dennis the Menace. That's what you have on CBS here. Lassie and Dennis the Menace. Those are the big shows of the evening. Again, 7 and 7:30. Lassie was an episode called Star Reporter, but that was only a half hour. But that's not a sitcom. It's not a comedy. So that will never be ever grace the doorstep of Sitcom, all you faithful. But Dennis the Menace, 7:30 to 8 o'clock, and then from 8 to 8:30, CBS. This TV Tango doesn't have a full lineup, so it's got 8 8:30, nothing. Then at 9 o'clock, the General Electric Theater. And then at 9:30, Alfred Hitchcock Presents. I don't know why I'm saying it like a Dracula. Over on NBC from 7 to 8, you had a Riverboat, which was a show. And then they show nothing except at 10 o'clock, the Loretta Young Show. And then on ABC, you got 7:30 to 8:30 Maverick. So that's a show that I remember with James Garner. Well, I don't remember it, but I've heard of with James Garner. Followed by The Lawman at 8:30. All new episodes, and they have nothing listed at 9, but at 9:30, The Alaskans, which I feel like should be like the Californians, but in Alaska. And at 10:30, Dick Clark's World of Talent. Dick Clark was doing his talent thing even back then. So that was really it. That's what aired on December 20th, 1959, or at least partially what aired that evening, according to tvtango.com. And of course, if you are on the show notes or on the website, fansnotexperts.com, on this episode, if you click on the date, it'll bring you to this TV Tango page. So, yeah, I think that's it. I think I've done pretty much all I can do on an episode of Dennis the Menace from 1959. But it got me in the Christmas mood, especially when Dennis was singing Silent Night and everyone stopped, and it was kind of a sweet moment. It worked. It worked for me. And the nostalgia of watching this in the morning with my dad before school. My mom was getting ready. My mom would drive me to school because I was on the way of her school. Both my parents were teachers. She taught in our town. My dad taught in the next town over, so he couldn't take me. He'd leave. I think we'd leave before him. And my mom would take my brother to high school and me to our grammar school until he brought... No, wait a minute. She never brought us both because back by then, my brother had his car and his license. So this definitely was when I was in grammar school. It had to be. Had to be. I don't think I was watching this in high school. I matured by then, maybe. I don't know. But anyway, day 8. 8 days in a row talking Christmas sitcoms. I think there was one day where I got ahead of the things, where I recorded an episode beforehand. But pretty much since then, I've been talking and watching the episodes on the day that the episodes come out. So that means I'll be back tomorrow doing it all over again. And the fun thing is I have a list of shows. I have no idea what tomorrow's going to bring. It's going to be something. I'll give you that. It's going to be something. That I can promise you. But until tomorrow, my friends, you can find me on all the socials at Geek Mentality, except Geek Mentality Mike. The Facebook page is Fans Not Experts. The YouTube channel is Fans Not Experts. That's because the website where all my podcasts can be found is fansnotexperts.com. And even though Sitcom All Ye Faithful is coming out every day, I want to tell you that every Monday this month is a brand new episode of Stranger Danger, my Stranger Things podcast, where I'm covering the first 4 episodes of the final season of Stranger Things, the Stranger Things 5 season. The first 2 episodes are out. Next Monday, I'm kind of putting an episode out every Monday till we get to Christmas. Then I got to put out 3 episodes in 1 week because on New Year's, it all comes to an end. Very exciting stuff over at Stranger Danger. But for Christmas sitcoms, I will see you tomorrow, my friends. Until then, though, thank you for listening. Thank you for subscribing. And here is my theme song.
This is my podcast, I made it. Geek Mentality's what I named it. And I think you should listen and subscribe. Cause I'm kinda funny and awesome. I think that I'm worth your time. And I'm kinda handsome, my mom says. Please listen and please subscribe. At least listen to this episode.
Fans Not Experts.